The NFL draft, it is in the books. Buccaneers, we think, had a good draft. I think most of us feel pretty good about it. We feel really good about the Lightning game last night. We feel pretty damn good about the Tampa Bay Rays as well. All in all, pretty good. I mean, outside of Friday night when the Lightning lost, it was a really good sports weekend for Tampa Bay. Tim Barnard producing the show today. Tim, how was your weekend? Everything good with you?
Oh, everything was great, Nick. Yeah, like you said, getting that win up in Montreal, huge last night.
We met up this weekend. We were at Ferg's. We went to watch some basketball on Saturday afternoon, and the game started at 1 o'clock. Tim showed up at like 4. You missed pretty much the entire game.
Hey, traffic on 275 was not great, all right?
Traffic on 275, it always sucks, whether it could be 1 o'clock in the afternoon on a Saturday. You're like, this isn't even rush hour. Why does traffic? And it doesn't matter if it's the St. Pete side or the Tampa side. It always sucks. It's so bad, and it's just like it's never gonna be fixed. All the they're always doing construction, but the traffic is always gonna just be awful on those roads.
The construction there blows my mind. Everything was great, and then all of a sudden I hop on it a couple months ago, and there's construction for what looks like nothing, no reason.
Well, 275 always by like 54th Ave is when it starts to kind of slow down on the St. Pete side, and then we're in Tampa. I always have a problem is like right before Dale Mabry. I feel like it's always slow. And it's just, and it doesn't matter what, like it'll be, like I said, afternoon time on a Saturday or Sunday, and I'm like, why does it look like rush hour here? And it shouldn't be this bad, but it is because everybody waits till the last second to merge because nobody knows where they're going.
No one knows how to drive.
Enough about the Tampa Bay traffic. We could all complain about this for a couple hours. Let's talk about other things people are complaining about. The NFL draft. Nobody was complaining after round 1, though. Everybody liked Reuben Bain Jr. That pick was phenomenal. And I think it's okay to be happy with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers draft because on paper it looks pretty awesome. But I also want to say be careful when you read into, draft grades by the experts. And look, we're going to do a segment. We've got one of the experts' draft grades. We'll go over those this hour. But be careful when it comes to draft grades. Try not to take them too serious. I'm not a big draft grade guy. Like, we're not going to do that today. I'm not going to give a grade for the Buccaneers because we don't know. We could I guess we could go back and look at the 2023 draft and maybe make a grade on that draft, but we can't grade 2026 because we just haven't seen these players play yet for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and until we do, it's hard to really say whether or not they're good. And even the 2023 draft, I think, is kind of tough. I went back to that draft, and I was like, all right, Kalijah Kancey, Yaya Diop, and then I start to think about it. I'm like, is it even too early to give a grade to Kalijah Kancey? We haven't seen him play enough. So you almost have to go back to 2022. How many years do you think you need, Tim? 3 or 4?
I feel like it depends on the position, but about 3 to 4 good years.
So it's hard to really give an opinion. Basically, it's hard to give a grade because none of it means anything. And that was kind of the whole purpose of our show last week. We spun the wheel because nobody knows anything. I like to read the text messages that come into the radio station all day. And there are so many text messages. There was one here at the end of the Pat and Aaron show, and there's many like this. The Bucs could have picked C.J. Allen instead of Trotter. Just admit it. You're complaining to complain because there is no way the average fan knows the difference between these players. And by the way, I'm not saying I'm above you because I put it on social media on Friday watching the draft. I said, I can't tell you the difference between Trotter and the rest of these linebackers, but I wanted a linebacker, and we got one. We can't all just pretend to be experts. There is no way I think that anybody has watched enough film on C.J. Allen or Josiah Trotter to know which one was really better. But you know who has? Jason Light and the staff. So you got to trust them because that's their job. And by the way, it's okay if you don't know the difference between the two of their games because you haven't watched enough film because it's not your job. You're supposed to have a life. You have a job to do. You work and you have a family. Like, you don't have time to watch all this film. You don't have to be an expert. But I do think it's weird when people get all up in arms over picks. And that is the one of the most annoying things about draft weekend is everybody's a general manager. Everybody has thoughts. And that's okay. Everyone's allowed to share their thoughts, I suppose. But I think if you're all up in arms over this pick or that pick. I just think it's all fake outrage because I think you're getting upset over, very minuscule things because you saw a mock draft have C.J. Allen above Josiah Stewart or Trotter. You thought, all right, C.J. Allen's better. How many? I think if I went back and looked, I believe Mel Kiper had 4 first-round picks correct. It was 4. Daniel Jeremiah had, I believe, 6. Think about it. And by the way, the first one was a freebie with Mendoza. We all knew Mendoza was going to the Raiders.
So subtract 1 from every number you just gave.
Correct. So what I'm saying is, just because a mock draft had C.J. Allen above Josiah Trotter doesn't mean he's a better football player. And I just think most fans don't know the difference. And again, that's not a knock on you listening. I don't know the difference either, and I'm not going to pretend I do. I wanted a couple things out of this draft. After they picked Trotter, I said, I want a corner, and I want a big wide receiver. I didn't give you a name of a corner. I didn't give you a name of a wide receiver. I just said, I want a corner, and I want a big wide receiver. I got both of those things. Will Scott be a great corner in the NFL? Only time will tell. Ted Hurst, everything I've seen on him, I'm not going to sit here and pretend I watched a ton of Georgia State football. I haven't. But looking at his numbers, looking at his size, looking at just a couple game highlights, which only tell you so much, I like what I saw. I think there's some upside there. I love it. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you, break down Hurst for you. I can't do that. I just don't watch Georgia State football. I'm not going to pretend I do. But I got the types of players I wanted. It's Jason Light's job to make sure they're the best player for the type that we want. And I think, he got us what we needed. He went after needs this first, second, third, fourth, fifth round, sixth round, seventh round. He went after needs every round. And overall, I liked what he was doing. Whether or not these players pan out, I don't know. But I went back and looked at some old draft grades. How about our friend O.J. Howard? O.J. Howard, his name came up a lot last week. Anytime we were discussing, Kenyon Sadiq, it was like, oh, but we drafted O.J. Howard. He was a bum. Well, just because he was a bum doesn't mean that Kenyon Sadiq would be. But I want to go back and look at some of the great. This was after O.J. Howard was selected in 2017. Fox Sports, as much as I love the partnership we have with them, they gave the grade an A+. O.J. Howard was a steal since most expected Howard to be gone earlier. CBS Sports gave the O.J. Howard grade a B. Noted Tampa Bay could have addressed defense, but Howard was one of the cleanest players in the draft. NFL.com gave the grade a B for the Buccaneers. Emphasized it was ridiculous he was still available and projected him as a future Pro Bowler. Those were the draft grades on O.J. Howard. That's why just be careful with the grades that you read, okay? Again, on paper right now, I think everything looks great. I think we have a lot to be happy about. But just don't take too much into the grades. CBS Sport, this is for Joe Tryon Shoyinka. Remember JTS? These were the grades for him. CBS Sports, Pete Prisco, B-. Liked the athletic upside, but noted he was still a raw as a pass rusher, especially after opting out in 2020. NFL.com gave him a B. Emphasized the Bucs adding depth to an already strong front seven, calling Tryon a developmental edge with tools. PFF gave it a B. Highlighted his length, explosiveness, and flashes, but pointed out inconsistency and limited refinement. USA Today, B-. Does anybody think JTS was in the B to B- range? I don't think anybody would say he was. I'd say C- to D+ range. And nobody thought O.J. Howard was an A+. Now, my favorite draft grade of all time, the 2012 Seattle Seahawks. This was from Bleacher Report. And this is straight from the article. With the 2012 NFL Draft over and done, it's time to look back on the teams that failed on draft day and give them a grade. Certain teams had amazing afternoons, but others, I'm looking at you, Seattle, completely missed on the concept of trying to improve. All of the following squads screwed up, but it's very clear that certain teams have major internal issues I'm sorry to the fans of the following teams. The worst draft grade he went to the Seattle Seahawks. And listen to what he wrote. Now, I should let you know they took Bruce Irvin, they took Bobby Wagner, and they took Russell Wilson. Those were the players they drafted. And this Bleacher Report article said after one of the worst picks in the first round I can ever remember, the Seattle Seahawks didn't draft any positions of need or draft for the future. Pete Carroll is proving why he didn't make it to the NFL the first time. Not only was Bruce Irvin a reach at 15, the Seahawks proved they were oblivious to their madness by celebrating their selection. As if the day wasn't bad enough, Seattle selecting Russell Wilson, a quarterback that doesn't fit their offense at all, was by far the worst move of the draft. With the two worst moves of the draft, Seattle is the only team that received an F on draft day. All those guys are Super Bowl champions that they won with Pete Carroll.
I was going to say, how did that pan out for them?
Yeah, it worked out pretty good. Only one of the most legendary defenses ever. I think it worked out pretty well. So be careful reading into draft grades, and that's why we're not going to do them today. Now, can I tell you that I liked what Jason Light did? Yeah, I can tell you that. Like, on paper, it appears the Buccaneers hit a home run. It looks like they hit just as many home runs as the Rays did off of Taj Bradley on Friday night. You know, the Ruben Bain selection, I think, is unanimous. There's nobody unhappy about that. And I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan base deserved that pick because this offseason has been not fun. One of the most depressing offseasons I can remember for any team. You know, losing Levante David, Mike Evans, keeping Todd Bowles, which I know a lot of you wanted him gone, right? The offseason hasn't been fun. And now you have something to give you a little bit of hope going into next season by Ruben Bain Jr. getting selected at 15 overall. I still can't believe he fell. I really can't. It was a miracle that he was there and we got our guy. Jason Light couldn't pass up. Now, my take on Ruben Bain Jr. on Friday getting drafted to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is there was some off-field drama. Typically, the Buccaneers stay away from guys with off-field drama. Jason Light, I think, is feeling the heat from this offseason, from the way last season went, and he had to take a risk and go with a guy that has maybe a little bit of baggage and make that selection. And he did just that, and it was the right choice. You got to bring him to town. And did anybody have a hat selection as good as Ruben Bain's? The video has gone viral. Everybody is sharing it. All the players that get drafted, they go put their hat on, they look in the mirror. Not Ruben Bain. He drafted his hat and just kept on going. I loved it. This guy he hasn't even played it down, and I'm already thinking he's my favorite player in the NFL. I thought now, did he look a little upset on draft day? Yes. But I loved his attitude, and I loved his demeanor. He was pissed off for a reason. Good. Bring that to the field. But that pick definitely has me excited. We'll talk about some other draft picks the Bucs took, what we think on them. There's one that I think has a really high ceiling.